Okay, I think we're live. Hello,
That's a great way to
everybody.
start the show. I think we're live, everybody. Are you people out there?
I think we made it. We'll see.
We did.
We'll
We're
see
here.
how. We'll see if anyone finds us. Then we'll know for sure if we're live. Um, Welcome, Ryan Seven, to this very relaxed conversational deal we're going to be doing on the channel called Ushering Renaissance. I really want to talk to different people working on a variety of projects and similar themes, such as yourself, Ryan Seven, and just have relaxed conversations, a little more personal, but talking about whatever projects we might have going on, interests, stories, whatever arises. It's literally whatever we bring, we sing. And so here we are today. Now, I've done an interview with you on your channel before, and that was really fun.
It was
So,
fun.
yeah, it was a good time. So, I hope that you enjoy yourself here on my channel today. So, how did we meet, Ryan? I'm trying to think backstory. One thing I do want us to talk about is I want to make sure that everybody is aware of the Jedi server and what its function is. So, can we just talk about that briefly?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hello, everybody. So, what is the Jedi server? Well, I have to talk about myself a little bit first, I suppose.
Please do. Yes.
I'm the person to talk to about myself, I suppose. So, I've been studying these things for a while. These things being, oh God, there's so many names for it: the occult, the supernatural, the strange side of religion, the new age weirdness, the old Western taboos, which actually go back to these ancient mystery traditions where people were still grasping at knowledge, and it certainly wasn't formalized like it is now. Um, and so, with all these ancient arts comes a lot of codes and things like that because they're all hidden in there and they're not for the profane, and you lot aren't good enough for it. So if you want to work for it, you need to prove yourself by working this stuff out in all these many codes. So being good at jigsaws when I was a kid, I just seem to have this natural disposition for breaking the codes of the occult, of alchemy and astrology and the old religions. So it, I was actually pulled into these things. Well, naturally, a part of me always liked spooky stuff, aliens and ghosts and things like that. But I had a mushroom trip one night, and I kind of got the whole thing in one dose. I was actually looking for, which this will relate to the Jedi Academy, a link between the universe and sound. I had this just profound feeling that that was the truth. And I was quite a normal scientist, as in physics, chemistry, things like that. And I'd exhausted all my avenues, other than actually becoming a scientist and having a multi-billion-dollar piece of equipment to detect things in the universe that hadn't been detected yet. So it just so happened to be I was a musician, particularly at the time, and I'd put some Terence McKenna into a mix, just some random voice off the internet. I mean, it's a long time ago. Just some random voice off the internet talking about the mushroom, and you do these things and other things happen and everything's crazy. I'm like, okay. And then he started talking about these shaman types in the ayahuasqueros, and saying that when they're doing the little rituals with each other, they sing Icaros, and they can see sound. They can see these Icaros that they're singing. I'm like, whoa, that sounds interesting. And I thought, well, I should try that. Oh, this was very new at the time, by the way. It wasn't like Joe Rogan had been out or anything like that. It was still just these little secret philosophers like Terence McKenna.
Yeah.
And so, well, I live in the north of England, and it's quite cold and damp. And Banisteriopsis capi, I think, is the Latin word for ayahuasca, and Cicrucia viridis. You might know these better. No, okay. The Latin
I'm not an
names for the two.
ayahuasca lady, unfortunately.
Um, my ex was. She was a proper ayahuasca priestess, even though she also lived around here. But this was years later. She could get the component parts by them, even though they're very illegal over here. So the back of my mother's house, backed onto the Pennines, which is this hilly area, hilly. It leads up to the Lake District and the mountains of Scotland. It's like the foothills. So up there grew lots of psilocybe semilanceata mushrooms. So I went to the hills up the back of my mum's house and took them back to my house and just steadied myself to have a trip. I was about to say that I had come across other people before that had said they'd taken mushrooms, but it was always like, yeah, I found them on the cricket field. We had 100, and I was like, how old were you? Yeah, about 15. If you had 100 when you were 15, you'd still be tripping now. So, I didn't know who to trust. So, I was anxious, but cut an increasingly long story short. I kind of had the experiences that you'd want. I snapped out of it. I was like, whoa, I've had the religious experience. And then more crazy things happen. We can talk about this in depth later if you want to. But I kind of had all my answers. And I was also shown tarot, weirdly, on my girlfriend. It was like she was an ex-girlfriend at that point. And there was a deck of Aleister Crowley's tarot on her side table. It was like, look at that. I'm like, okay, those silly cards. So the next mission I did was start to look at the silly cards, and I realized everything that happened to me in my trip was in these cards. And then the more I studied the cards, I realized, oh God, there's mushrooms everywhere. Even there are, there's the intimations to this sound and this cosmic harmony and these special numbers. Within each card, there's the secrets of the zodiac signs, which turned out to be also related to this sound stuff and architecture and real secret science stuff, not just like hippies walking around going, oh, love and light, and I am you, you are me. Yes, absolutely, that was part of it on a cosmic scale, but some very down to earth, tangible things that essentially formulate this ancient secret science. So then I started to learn, and then eventually people asked me on the shows and stuff, and I did my own show for a while on YouTube, just not talking to people but making videos, until I discovered some other things, and then I needed to go and write a book, so then I had to stop the videos. But as a part of all this, I met other people on this path learning this secret science. Some people particularly good at numbers and working all that math stuff out and the proportions. A lot of it goes back to like how the pyramids were built, how big is the moon, how big is the sun, how big is the earth, how was the earth mapped in ancient times. All these like bizarre ancient technology questions that you'd associate with Atlanteans and whatnot. And over time, I just met the right people, set up this little Discord server, and if you build it, they will come. And some people showed up. Shan, you're one of them.
Yeah, it's been fun. I really appreciate you
Shan,
doing that.
Shan's really good at maths, everybody. She excels.
Yes, join the Jedi Academy so you can see me work my math wizardry daily.
Yeah, it goes Shan at the very bottom, me one step above her. I can kind of do some maths. I remember some numbers, and then we've got actual smart people
Oh
that really
boy.
know the stuff and are actually doing the work with it. I do
Yeah.
know. I know more than I let on, but I'm certainly less interested in it than those guys are. But it's all part of this secret special art that, nonetheless, the codes take me to. So I've got to indulge in it. But I know enough. I know more than enough to get by. But we have some other people in there that are very specialized in specific areas. Shan is specialized in sound healing, for example. And
Right. We each have our niche of specialty
yeah,
for sure. But
yeah.
we solve
I'd say
mysteries.
if there's one person that overarches them all, it's me. But I still have that specialty of cracking the codes, but I suppose I'm the intermediate between everybody and a bit of that binding influence between everybody.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I see what you mean. You do. You have like a little bit of everything. You have your core focus, but you're really like super well balanced. It's crazy. And the more I interact with you, the more I learn about you. I'm just like, wow. I just love to see the culmination of somebody's life through their knowledge base and experiences. It's just, you know,
Yeah,
you can tell when people are like heavily enriched. It's pretty easy to pick up
I
on.
think
So
I'm not
that's
very good at
nice.
taking compliments, Shan. That's something you'll learn about me. I'm still
You
quite
don't have
modest.
to take it.
Yeah, but no, I will take it. That's a lovely compliment, and especially coming from somebody I respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. So, what do you want to see happen with Jedi Academy? Like, what when you made it, what was the point? Like, what inspired you? When I'm sure, like, the muse was whispering in your ear, and you're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna
No,
do.
it was our Australian friend Dane Quirk, Saturn Rooster 1981.
Really?
Yeah, it's well,
Oh,
he kept messaging me every day with new stuff, and I'm like, dude, we've we keep cracking this stuff really easily. We had a really good synergy, and I said, look, well, the next stage is like maybe we should just start a Discord and invite a few of these people that we're talking about to come and join the Discord. So they did, and they continue to. Whether or not people are those people are excited enough by the format to engage with it. Like not everybody's the kind of person that has the phone or whatever they're using to get on Discord. And you can see
right,
they come and they go and they drop their information off, which is great. You know, some of these people also have shows that were on our or are on other shows. And if you
right.
don't want to come on and interact, that's fine. But we are there, and they do every once in a while, so it's good by me. And there are plenty of people that just come on there and have a look too. But
Yeah,
you're all invited into the community. It tends to be people doing the work, though. It's like a school for teachers, I suppose, to
yeah.
share our information.
That's a really good way to put it. That's a perfect way to describe what it's like being in Jedi Academy. You know, it's a bunch of
Yeah,
people using the Force
yeah,
and helping each other to fill the gaps and put some of the missing pieces because we each have our own thing. So we're able
yeah,
to work on projects together. For instance, guys, for those of you who aren't in the Jedi Academy on Discord, if you want to be, there is a link in the description of this video. So you're welcome to follow that. It's good for 7 days. But yeah, like if you're trying to solve your own mystery, then this is a really great place to take it because you can potentially have your own channel in there and you can say, I'm working on this. What do you guys think? And you're going to have all of these wild brains with eyes on your
yeah.
project. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty
Well,
cool to have that support.
yeah, everybody on that is definitely clever. That's the
Yeah.
one I really appreciate it. There's nobody dragging us down.
No riffraff.
Not everyone's quite disagreeable in the best kind of way, but not argumentative. So it's great. We'll say our bit, and it's like, oh, we're all trying to find out, and there's nobody on there with the kind of ego that's yes, they'll definitely disagree with you, but I keep calling it a dojo. It's not a safe space. You
Yeah.
come in, you come in to be challenged. You take your knocks if someone disagrees with you, but you're going in there to go and test your theories or test your ideas. So you roll around on the mat, get beat up a bit, stand up, shake each other's hand, and turn up again next week because it was so much fun and you gain so much from it, even though it hurts.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it. And I also want to say thank you to Taz, who just posted the link in the chat, who's also a member of the Jedi Academy and a moderator. Thank you, Taz, for everything that you do. You're amazing. I'm going to say hi to a couple people who have popped into the chat while we're talking about this. Oh, Kike Cruz, Renee, thank you for just joining the Discord. I look forward to having you in there. Renee is pretty cool. Renee makes music. You might have seen
Cool.
some of Renee's remixes of like Almond and Teddy Bass and stuff. It's super cool. And we work together on a couple things as well. I want to say hello to Lisa and I want to say hello to Leslie. Thank you for joining so much, you guys. Um, Yeah, so go ahead and join and leave a message and wherever it says introductions, and then we can help you find your way.
Initiations. Yeah.
Initiations. There you
It's
go.
initiations. That's
Yeah.
them right. So yeah, it's been fun. Recently, I put a project on there called Project Flying Donkey, and that was
Let's
just
talk
a lot of
about
fun.
it. That was the
Yes,
perfect example of what we were illustrating.
yeah,
So,
it was fantastic. So should I tell the story to the nice
please.
people out there?
Yep.
So I've been working on these pillars. When I was giving you my life story a moment ago, one of the things that made me write the book that I'm currently finishing up were these pillars that I discovered in the same place as I found the mushrooms. Funnily enough, um, and on these pillars are all these ancient kind of Templar symbols. They look like the Christian, but when you look at them, like, no, they're not. You're hiding something. When I look behind it all, it's everything on there, from these sacred numbers and map coordinates to the size of the Earth encoded, and energy stuff as well. And there was so much in there. It's fantastic. Love it. But on these pillars, which are smashed and they come up to about your waist height. They're not very tall. They would have been up in some ancient, not ancient, but like 1300s chapel. Ancient for modern Americans, but not quite so old for us. But 1300s, around the time the Templars were fleeing, parts of them would have been over doorways or maybe over in a little altar. And the actual chapel's demolished now, and these stones ended up in a graveyard. And because of this, they are somewhat partially destroyed, so you can't quite tell what's in every face. What's on some of the faces that you can see are biblical stories, and which seem to relate to things that they aren't. So, for example, there's one of Jesus, zombie Jesus. I keep calling him because I'm very disrespectful. Zombie Jesus just come back from the dead, and he's showing up to talk to Peter. It's called the miraculous catch of 153 fish. And Peter's out there with his boys in the with his boys in the boat, and this random guy comes up to the shore and is like, "Have you caught any fish?" And Peter's like, "Who's this idiot over here?" "No, yeah, no, nothing." Like, cast your net out to the right, and you'll catch loads of fish. And so Peter's like, "Oh." Because in these pictures on the pillars, Jesus looks like really hench and muscular, if not kind of overweight, and looks more like a doorman than a the savior of mankind. And so like Peter's like, oh,
Which he is not. Which
he's
he
been
is
working
not.
out. So so basically, as the story goes, Peter chucks the net out, comes back to land, and he's like, oh, got it. I'm pretty sure that's Jesus, but it can't be. And he says, like, there's 153 fish in your net when you count them up, and like, you are definitely Jesus. And the weird thing about that story is it was also told about Pythagoras. Pythagoras, famous vegetarian, wanders down to the docks. Lots of burly men that look like Jesus in that picture. And he's like, if I can tell you how many fish are in that net, will you throw them back? He's like, yeah, I'll be impressed, mate. Yeah, we'll throw them back. And so he says 153. So what does that go to? Well, it's actually about the Vesica Piscis, which is the two circles linked together. That's the one.
Hmm.
Run with that one.
Yeah, maybe I can do it.
Go on, do it.
I can do
Get people to do embarrassing things on live shows is my fault.
You're the best at that. Okay,
So
sorry.
so we got the Vesica Piscis, and that little almond vagina shape in the middle. That has the value of the square root of 3 in it. I know it sounds boring. You don't have to remember it, but that's basically 200. Those two dimensions, like horizontal and vertical, become 256, 153. I'm not too sure about the 256, close enough, but 153, which is the 153 fish. So straight away, that's one of the easiest stories in the Bible to decode as far as all this ancient secret science stuff. So I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are these other ones? Decoded all those, but there's one image on this pillar which you can hardly see what it is. It looks like Jesus walking along doing that one, the sign of benediction, good speaking. They used to raise their hands up in ancient Greece when they were saying something that was insightful. So good speech, benedicto. And it's also the symbol of esoterica, and it's got like 666 in there and lots of other numbers.
All those
It's all the same
statues
stuff
as
again.
well.
Yes, this ancient science of sound, essentially. And yeah, so it's got a guy on the back of the horse. You can only see his hand, and then he's clearly riding this horse. And there's a, a guy underneath. He looked like he was tilling the land until we realised by putting it on the Discord. It was like the last thing I'd never quite understood. It looked like Palm Sunday, but it just didn't. It wasn't Palm Sunday until it was Palm Sunday, when somebody else went and looked at some other pictures, more like from the Eastern Orthodox Church, and it was like, look, it's a man laying his cloak down. It looked like a guy tilling the land or similar, or plowing it, or spreading some seeds. It looked like he had a contraption in his hand, but it was just a bad drawing of the cloak that he was laying down as Jesus walks
It
over
was
that
like
and
he
palm
had
fronds.
the, it looked like, for reference, it looked like he had like the collar of a coat.
Yeah,
When we looked at it from this perspective, he has like the hard collar of the coat in his hands that's illustrated, but then you can see how it's laid down. But we thought
yeah,
it was like a tilling machine, like a wooden mechanism initially.
yeah,
It looked like somebody tilling. Go ahead.
yeah. So it was just annoying me. And every time anyone would say Palm Sunday, I'd say, yeah, it looks like Palm Sunday, but it can't be. It's agricultural, until I was shown this cloak. At which point, I opened up a little channel on the Discord and invited everybody else. I went and did a little research first to line everything up, and then people just added their, every time I asked a question, somebody put their opinion in, or every time I made an observation, somebody else with knowledge from somewhere else would put that into. And quite quickly, so the basis of the actual story is, if I tell the biblical story, Jesus, I think he's just raised Lazarus or something like that, and he's been seen by the people as being triumphant. So this is also kind of his death procession, because he's I don't know, he had a word with the Holy Spirit or something like that. I don't think it's clearly said, but he knows that he's got to die, and this is the end, the last week of his life. So he walks towards Jerusalem, and he stops in this house called the House of Unripened Figs, which later on turns into, he goes to another place, the House of Ripening Figs, and then the House of Ripened Figs. So it's just the fig season. It's like the month where they're not ripe, the month where they are ripening, and the month where they're ripe. It's just those months. It's like Cancer, which is uh, like end of June into July, August. Your voice has gone.
I'm just agreeing. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. So what it turned out was, it's like, so it's death. So normally you'd think Jesus, if we were looking up to the astrology, that it would be the sun. But because he's dying, I thought maybe he might be Saturn. So I just looked what Saturn was doing in between 32, 33, and 34 BC, because Saturn moves so slowly across the sky. You're not going to see it over those couple of months. It's not going to do anything. So the story goes, Jesus is in the village of unripened figs, and he asks two of his disciples to basically go and steal two donkeys. He says, go over there, take those two donkeys, and if the guy comes out of the house, just tell them for me, for the Lord. The Lord has come, basically like tooting his own horn. And clearly there's a thing that they're being stolen. But anyway, so they bring the two donkeys, and he rides the donkeys on this procession into Jerusalem, and the people take off the cloaks and then lay down the palms from the palm tree. And so I was like, okay, easy story. And then the next thing is he's lamenting to one of his disciples that he's going to die soon, and he knows that these are his last days. So there you go, end of the story. So I looked at Saturn. Saturn's passing through Cancer on that year, 32 to 33, and it passes through two stars in Cancer that are called two donkeys. And between them is this little, we call it the beehive cluster now, but back then it was called the manger. So you got a donkey in a manger. And I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. There was a donkey in a manger at the beginning of his life 30 years ago. And Saturn makes a revolution every 30 years, 29 and a half years. So I'm like, whoa, here we go. We got something here. And obviously, for the Jews, not obviously, but the symbol of, there are two symbols for the Jerusalem, and they are either the olive tree, which is very much like the palm tree, or the lion. The house of Judah is
Mhm.
the Judaic lion. So well, the next sign on is after Cancer is Leo, so that's the house of Judah. So he's going on this triumphal procession into the house of Judah. I'm like, okay, this is easy. And then so I'm like, that's done, easy. We know where we are in the sky. There'll be some bodily analogy as well, but I haven't looked into it that deeply. Maybe that'll come out when I write it down. So then you got to look into like what's going on here. We got palm trees, we got donkeys, we've got Jesus triumphant, and so I start looking at the rest of the artwork. Normally, the first thing I would do was look at the art, from all over the world. It tends to be older artists because these things get lost when they're out of the church's hands. So I'm noticing a few things. One of them is that the palm trees look like a portal to another dimension. Uh, on other ones, also that the people doing the taking the palm fronds and throwing them down and taking the clothes off of children, and if you look at enough examples, especially from the east, a good third of the donkeys are flying. So this is why it got called Project Flying Donkey. Again, a long story short, it turned out to be the palm trees. Another name for a palm tree in Latin is phoenix, because the phoenix bird that dies and resurrects. There's a mushroom analogy there because lots of mushrooms, especially the red amanita fairy tale mushroom, it grows from an egg shape. It kind of bursts out from the egg, raises its wings as if it's about to fly, raises its wings right up as if it's about to flap them down, and then bursts into flames and then dies. And then another one comes out in the next flush. So you got this analogy. Well, that analogy also works for palm trees because, I mean, they're even called phoenix, but because they're in hot, arid climes, they are vulnerable to being burned. So when they do burn down, they've got these little buds in the stem. So they shoot out really quickly and then they grow back really quickly because they're used to this
Mm.
fire damage. And obviously, you can pull extra nutrients from the ground, and there's lots of other advantages from that. Um, so there's this whole that's a shamanic allegory as well. In fact, it's the Jesus allegory, isn't it? He dies and comes back in the Phoenix way. He goes into the underworld and frees all the souls. Again, it's a shamanic allegory for that psychological work that goes on when you take large amounts of these substances. Terence McKenna's 5 dried grams, or or a really good meditation session. There are many ways of doing it, but the most scientifically repeatable one is probably taking larger doses of some of these chthonic drugs.
Mm.
Acacia is another one that's often mentioned.
Right.
So there's your flying donkey. That's why your
Yeah.
donkey's flying. The same reason Father Christmas's reindeer are flying, because they've eaten the mushroom.
I was just referencing this whole thing about the mushroom being Santa Claus and all this stuff. That's funny. Like right before
Yeah.
we got on our call, I was on another call and I was talking about that. Um, yeah, so these are mysteries that we're able to solve together. And I know that a lot of us who are watching now um, have our own mysteries, right? So if you feel like you have something that you can't work out on your own and you want some extra eyes, then come on over because you get to participate in weird, wild shit like this all the time. And it's fun. It is fun. Super fun
We're
in
all
my
silly people as well.
silly
We're all,
nerd.
yeah, yeah. And we're all nice. It's
Yeah,
great.
that's true. That's true. We are nice. That's very important. Um, so we talked briefly about talking about the occulted map of chi, but I also wrote down just like some other random fire off questions for you. Is there any like
Tell you what,
direction?
Shall we talk about my experience the last few days? I've had some strange energy
Yeah,
things going on.
please. I really
Yes,
want to hear about this. Yeah.
yeah, good. So, everybody out there, I've been a lot of this occult work eventually, especially alchemy and things like that, end up in being the energy field around your body, and a lot of these philosophies are basically so you can work things out psychologically, so you can stay calm enough that your energy field can build up. You've seen bits of this on the internet, and you can look into it further. But I have been studying and practicing these things to not only charge yourself up, but to be able to distribute it wisely around your body, because you can get into lots of problems.
Let me just
So
preface very quickly before we continue into this story that one of the things that drew Ryan and I together is that we're both interested in energy work and sound therapy. So I'm super interested in this story. I have an idea of what you're going to talk about, but I just want to let you guys know that this is going to be one of those things, like I mentioned on the sound session the other night, that we might get into more stuff about sound therapy and energy work. So, yeah, this is pretty cool stuff. Go ahead, Ryan.
cool. Yeah. So look, guys, this is all quite new to me as well. So it's like um, these are little wow moments that were also wow to me. They're only little things, but they are things. So the other night, I'd been out to see a friend, and we'd had a couple of what was it? It was a strange English whiskey. Such a thing doesn't exist as an English whiskey. You go Irish or Scottish. But yeah, I think I think he might have made it himself. But anyway, it was very strong, a bit stronger than I thought. So I'm walking home, and I'm perfectly lucid. There was not I was just a lot more relaxed than I might have been. So I thought, well, I'll take the long way home. We live in a nice area, which is there's quite a bit of city, but you take one step outside of the city and it's beautiful countryside. So I'm walking home through the beautiful countryside. The moon's gorgeous, the atmosphere's calm, and I'm walking through a field, and I suddenly felt a push, like a magnet had been slid underneath my body, and there was another magnet in the center of my body, and there was just my organs got pushed upwards. I'm like, whoa, that was my lower dantian, svadhisthana chakra, sacral plexus, call it what you want, the bit just underneath my belly button that
Mhm.
internal alchemists work with to initiate the work,
Sacral.
the sacral plexus. So yeah, it just pushed up. I was like, whoa, that was kind of weird feeling. Very physical, not really any emotional or anything like that. It was just like a push up. And very much like you put two similar pole magnets together and go, woo. So I turned and I was like, whoa, what was that? And I'd felt like on the way into that push, I'd felt like a ramping curve of energy. What do I mean by energy? A bit like the old school TVs before we had TRT TVs, and you turn them off, especially the big widescreen ones. You turn them off, and it go afterwards, and you get the static on top, and you could kind of push your hand into it, and it would give you like a little resistance. Well, it was like that, plus the magnetic feeling I just said, and
Yeah,
it was quite profound. Like I would say, it felt like it moved in my body about that much upwards, like quite a lot.
that's
So I
substantial.
turned around. Sorry,
Yeah, that's substantial. That's a pretty
yeah, substantial.
substantial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amount. Yeah. So like, whoa, that was amazing. What was that? And I'm switched onto it. I'm like, that was that area. So I wonder if there's some energy coming out of the ground. So closed my eyes, kind of turned around and thought, can I feel my way back to it? Excuse me. Can I feel my way back to it? And I did. I felt like a cone of energy, like peeking up towards the center, probably about 4 foot, 3 or 4 feet above my head. But there was like a central pole to it, and I could feel that central pole pushing. And like I said, as I'd step away from it, it weakened, and so it was like a cone. And then so I looked up quickly to see where I was to get a landmark. And I thought, if I walk away from here now, get a little bit lost, and then walk back and see if I can't feel it out again, and then open my eyes again and see if I'm in the same place. And sure enough, I opened my eyes and I was in the same place. So I thought, well, this is great. What can I do with it? Can I position myself over the top of it? So I center with the center. Sure enough, quite quickly. And then I put there's you might know it as the tree hug, but there's a position in Tai Chi and Qi Gong where they put their arms out like this and they just stand there for like half an hour.
Yeah.
Zhang Zong. It's like a
Yeah.
pole star analogy. You being like the pole of the earth. So I did. I just stood there for just maybe 2 minutes, not very long, and I was almost immediately in a trance. Probably after about 30 seconds of just standing there, I was in like not a deep trance, but I was in a trance. Bear in mind, though, scientifically, I'd had some alcohol as well, so and probably something else, a little more smokable. In
Hmm.
fact, I had. Now I remember,
Yeah.
I had. But
Little
this doesn't.
Astarian.
Yeah. This exactly. This actually helped me to have the experience, though, rather than it being my imagination. It probably relaxed me enough to be able to be sensitive enough.
Yeah.
Um, if you'd have met me, you'd have never known that I'd had a couple of drinks and a smoke that kind of a night. So I just stood there, yeah, and it put me in a trance almost immediately. I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting. I can't really hang around here. I've got things to go and do." So I just went home and carried on with my life until a couple of days later. I was like, "Oh shit, do you remember that?" And wrote it down. But then yesterday, I had another experience.
All right.
So it was really simple. I was out having a walk. I'd gone to visit my mother, and she lives in a nice place, so I just went out for a little walk. And this dog ran up to us excitedly, and like dogs, if you're walking down a path, they'll come up to you, go side onto you, and stop you and look you in the eye. You're like, you little, I'm trying to walk down here.
Yeah.
Stop blocking my path. But it's clearly a hello thing and a signaling to the other dog. And I felt that dog's field on my legs straight away. The second it turned side onto me, I was like, "Whoa!" I could just feel it again, like that TV feeling with a little push. I was like, "Whoa!" And I just stood there and thought about it. I'm like, it just occurred to me that that's the reason these little non-verbal creatures, or the language is very limited for a doggy, come side onto each other to exchange nervous systems.
Yeah.
That one dog overly excited or aggressive or angry might get the vibe from this. And I just thought to myself as I was writing this on the Discord, that if that feeling in my legs would have been in my whole body, it would have been excited anticipation.
Mm.
Gonna go, is that my friend down the street? That kind of a feeling. Not huge, not like, oh, that beautiful woman that I want to go and meet. She's over there. I should go and talk to her. Not that. But like, is that my friend over there? I can't quite see. Oh, is it Joey? I've
Right.
not seen Joey in ages. It was that kind of a feeling, which would make sense from a dog coming up to me. And we all know these feelings inside our body. It's not like there's much difference between a feeling of joy and a feeling of sadness, is there? It's like a feeling of joy, everything uprises and you feel those butterfly connected feelings. And then the opposite of that is just like it's not there at all and it feels sunk down in a sad feeling. Maybe your heart feels a little less rhythmic, but there's between all the emotions in your body, there are very few processes that you can feel. It's almost like variations of pressure, isn't it? If you get me.
Yeah. I do though, just from my training and experience, I do think that there's like pretty big differences between the emotions of joy and sadness and where they live in the body and how they present.
Oh yeah, but
But but yeah, I hear
that's
what you're
that's
saying.
big. Yeah, you hear what I'm saying. The actual variables available in the body are quite few. It's like I get a fluttery feeling in my stomach. I get palpitations of the heart, or dead feelings. There aren't too many. I agree with you. There is a difference. There's a huge difference for you between joy and sadness, but the actual, like I said, the variables available to your body are few. There's only so
There's
much
like
going. You got electro.
I think what you're saying, you're about to say the electric current and all of that, but yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
there's specific areas in your body where these things land because it's kind of like where they are expressed from, right? Through
Mm,
the electrical
yeah.
currents that create,
Yeah.
like you were going to say.
Yeah. So that's it. Those are my two most recent experiences with it, but they were just such whoa moments that and unusual feelings that I just can't help but take note of them. Maybe we've always been feeling like this, things like this, but you're just so insensitive to it. Actually, I don't think that at all. Take that back. I think is when you train it up and you get more energy in you, and you're able to feel out that energy, that you just become more sensitive to it because you've attuned yourself to it. A bit like going to the gym, kind of an idea, or going to the library and studying something. It's like the more you do it, the more you can develop that.
So, what have you been doing that's been like buffing up your energy sensitivity muscles? That's what I'm curious about for all these things to start presenting for you. Oh, my
Okay.
life.
I'll go from the simple things, and I'll test the waters to see if I can mention the other thing.
Oh, boy.
Um, oh yeah, of course.
Sounds fun.
Do tell, do tell. Show
Yeah.
and tell, Ryan. No, not it. Um, so the simplest things that I do are, and probably the best thing that I do is Tai Chi. I love it. I do. I love it. I've done martial arts forever, and I'm not saying it's a very good martial art. I don't think it's a very good martial art. But those body movements and the order that they're in and the awareness that you're looking for in your body of the position of everything is what gives you access to the knowledge of the energy, I think. And because things flow around your body more easily energetically, that everything's awake to it. And once you can start feeling it, it kind of snowballs a bit. I'm sure there are certain gates that you can level up to, and you might get stuck there for a while. But
Okay. Yeah.
but with the way I've not dedicated myself, I'm not very dedicated. I'm more like follow my joy kind of a guy. I wish I was more dedicated to things I wasn't joyous to, but yeah. So I just the love of doing it, and then you start to feel it, and then again either you become attuned or you increase that muscle, probably a bit of both. And then you get into the breathing and all these other things, but they all kind of come together, and you just start charging up. I think the main thing that I do to actually charge is you have a thing where you have these. I mean, I'm talking to somebody else. Well, you have these points. Well, think Jesus's wounds. That's what the points are. Where he gets crucified. Well, it's in the same places. So there are points on your hand there. In China, they call them Lao Gong. So they're like little diamonds on your hands. And what you do is kind of you train the energy in your body, because where the mind goes, more like where the focus goes, the energy flows. Where your attention goes, the energy flows. And it does. That's pretty obvious. You can do it to your hands now. Like everybody at home, if you think about your fingers, right? You can't really feel your fingers now because I'm talking to you. But if you stop for a moment and just put your mind into your fingers, you can feel them fizzing and little, like prickling and fizzing on
Pulsing.
there. And, yeah, pulsing.
Yeah.
But that's only because you've put your attention there. Yes, because your nervous system's more engaged with your mind and you're taking that in, but you can take that to the nth degree and you'll feel the energy actually start to accumulate. As I've said, feel the energy start to accumulate. My mind straight away went to that sacral plexus because it's used to doing that through, doing it over and over again. So like I said, that I could feel a pressure straight away. It like contracts a little, but that whole area just feels deep pressure. And apparently it gets to the point where it's difficult to twist your waist. But then you're not far off the next stage where it kind of goes into your whole body.
Mm.
It's very interesting. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, so I think the main thing you do to charge that up is stillness. So you could call it meditation, or I'd like to. Yes, there's a sitting meditation, the normal meditation, but you just put your mind in that area and put your hands like cupped towards that area and have
Mhm.
the energy like recirculate through your arms into that area and then back up, then recirculate. But it's the quietness and stillness plus the drawing through the energy through those points on your hand into that area in your tummy. That's it. That's been the main way I've discovered to charge up. Although I'll say something else now. But I'm sure everyone's quite cautious. The very first time I had anything to do with that point, or any of this energy stuff, or any kind of spiritual experience, was the huge download I got the night I took those mushrooms. And when I'd snapped out of the deepest part of it, that area, that sacral plexus, exploded with what I can only describe as a like stained glass window effect, but it was so thin it was just two-dimensional. And in my mind, I knew that when it exploded out of me, which I had no idea what was going to happen, it exploded at me and like shot off to the end of the universe. Yeah, I was tripping balls, but it felt that way, and I didn't know anything about this stuff then, so it was just another.
Oh,
I've had to really. I'm reverse engineering that trip. That's what my journey's been about. I got it all at once, and I'm just trying to figure out what the hell happened to me that night.
wow. So that was
Yeah.
the first time, that was like your grand awakening, and that was the thing that got you into energy work ultimately.
No, it was finding it in alchemy and these other arts
Mm.
and tracing it back. And then only then it was like, oh shit, yeah, I had I had that feeling from that area and I saw it happen. Obviously, like I said, I was hallucinating, but yeah, it was weird. After that moment, I turned around, looked to the center of the room. I was weeping as well because it was such what had happened to me in the depths of that, the cosmic union, and snapped out of it. Was like, whoa, that was the most beautiful thing ever happened to me. That was the religious experience, and I just started weeping with joy. It was gorgeous, and I've turned around to the middle of the room, and there was a wireframe. Like when you're making 3D images and you might make a building, but your computer can't cope with it, so you need to wireframe it so it's just the corners and the edges while you're modeling it out. Well, it was that in the middle of the room, and it was like an Aztec Giza type plateau complex. There was pyramids on there, some pointed up, the rest pointed down. It was perfectly symmetrical. And I remember like turning around like, whoa, Ryan, you might have had too many mushrooms, because it's fine when it's happening when you got your eyes closed. It's almost like a dream, but when you got your eyes open and it's happening in front of you. So I
Oh,
remember turning
wow.
away like, what the fuck? Laughing to myself. I mean, still tears rolling down my face. And like, oh, you've really had too many this time. And I turned around and the complex had made the exact turn that you'd expect it to if it was really there. It's going at a certain speed, a turnaround, you'd expect that speed to maintain and the distance, and it was. And then, so earlier in the trip, I'd had this female voice talking to me saying that, things like, oh, calm down. If you close your eyes, because I was nervous, if you close your eyes, then it'll be easier to deal with on the inside than it is on the outside. I'm like, okay, nice feminine voice, man, giving me good advice, saying things like relax, and then me realizing that I needed to do that through my whole life. And lots of other, God, I could talk about this trip for hours.
Wow.
I've been thinking about it for nearly 12 years. And then, yeah, towards the end, when it was this weird 3D thing in the air, it was a male voice. I could only call it the voice of the male god, and that was the voice of the female god. But this one was more like authoritative and like, you better bloody listen. And it just said, you need to build the Temple of Solomon. I'm like, whoa, okay, now. And that was, as far as I was concerned, I'm like, I am ending this trip now. I rang up my friend. I mean, everything's like, yeah, exactly. I didn't know anything about this stuff. I didn't know anything about this stuff.
Oh, shit.
So yeah, I ended up finding the map for the Temple of Solomon, and ended up, I could build the Temple of Solomon now because of all these numbers and things that we've discovered, which are how the Temple of Solomon was built. Plus, you are the Temple of Solomon, and so it eventually ends up in all this energy stuff again, all the Solomonic legends. Probably the most energetic stuff in the whole of the Bible is the Tales of Solomon. He's casting off his demons. So, as I said earlier about the field, you've got to be calm and natural, and like, you might think joy is a great feeling, but no, not on the not on the field. For a while it is, but if you sustain that joy, let's pretend say you're doing drugs all the time or something like that, or you are just like joy, I'm so joyous all the time. God, you'd be annoying. But but it's not good for the field because it's extended too much for too long, and you can't hold that. You know what I mean? Hey, look, maybe Buddha can or some other similar dude, but for us, not so practiced people, it's not the greatest for you.
There are
And
techniques that you can do though, Ryan, with energy that activate the radiant circuits, is what we call them in my studies, radiant circuits. And it's if you study the radiant circuits, it's something that makes it way more accessible to normal people without having to do all of the intense, restrictive, and meditative practices. It's just very simple, straightforward energy work. And what it works with the triple warmer meridian that we kind of discussed on your channel. So
yeah,
I'll put a link after we go live. I'll put a link to that interview that we did for anyone who didn't see it. P.S. If you stick around to the end, you'll totally see me attacked by bugs, and it is hilarious. But anyways, the triple warmer meridian is super super important. It works directly with our nervous system and also with the spleen meridian. So these are energy pathways. They basically carry currents of our life force energy and light throughout our body to maintain different systems like organs and cellular regeneration, among other things. And they also do work with the field, which in my work we call it the biofield, but you can consider it to be like your auric field or your energy field. It extends about 5 to 8 feet off of the body on right and left side, and about 4 to 5 top to bottom. It can be way bigger than that, and it can also be smaller depending on your if you're feeling like you're in a restricted or stressed out state. But I just want to mention this is possible to do. You can activate the radiant circuit through working with the triple warmer meridian, and it really does bring more joy. But it's not the joy that you're referencing, because I understand what you're saying. When you're like putting yourself into this active state all the time of high energy joy, it wears on the system. It can anyway. But when you work with triple warmer meridian, it balances that with your nervous system, so you stay level and maintained, and your battery kind of charges on its own. So like at the end of the day, when you've had a busy day, you're not like fuck this day and everyone pissed me off, I'm so tired, give me my joint. It's like you're like, okay, I had a day, feeling good, gonna like have a great night's rest, and how proud am I of
give
myself
me
for
my
handling.
joint.
Give me my joint. Exactly. So anyways, I just wanted
Oh
to
yeah, I
interject
did.
because
Yeah, I looked into triple bomber as well. So yeah, it was interesting because it's like the only one that goes through all the major points that you'd want it to. It was like really useful. Yeah,
really important. Yeah,
yeah. Like I said, the
super.
system I've used is the one that comes along with Tai Chi, which is actually very simple. Whereas the other one, I think, is yours from traditional Chinese medicine or is it from yoga style stuff? It's all similar. It's
Yeah,
all
it's
actually
both.
come from the yoga stuff.
So I studied not directly with Donna Eden, but I studied under one of her top students, longtime students. Donna Eden, for anyone who isn't familiar, she is the godmother of energy medicine. She actually when she was very, very young, she could see energy. And so she started working with it really early. And fortunately, her mother supported her. And I think she came from a lineage of women who were basically energy witches. And so she learned a lot about energy through working with it and being able to actually see it on other people as well. And she started to notice patterns. And then as she got older, she started to research traditional Chinese medicine and things of that nature. And she saw how they tied together and how they overlapped in some ways. And she was like, oh my God, this is what I've been seeing my whole life. So then she
Right.
had like a map, and not all of it lined up, but she's written so many amazing books, including one that came out just this last year on what is it? Psychology, energy psychology. Awesome book by Donna Eden and her husband, who is a psychologist, I think. I believe he is. anyways, it's called energy psychology. It has a lot to do with tapping and why it works. And it's not 100% about EFT, emotional freedom technique. It's about all different types of tapping and why that works on an energetic level. So I studied under her, influenced slightly maybe by Chinese medicine. But yeah, she works with the meridians as they're seen in TCM as well.
Yeah, and there's another. We keep talking about these maths that seem so important, but there's another place that these maths were cropping up that led me to these arts again. I kept seeing it in alchemy, the traditional European alchemy, but it's also there in Chinese alchemy. They're more express about the fact that it is, and the alchemical process is an analogy for what to do with your body. But what I find really interesting about all this is that there's often the debate in religion and between religious types and atheists about where'd you get morality from? Is it just something humans make up to be nice to each other, or does it come directly from God? Well, here's another place then, isn't there? If your biofield has an effect, depending on how your attitude is and how you're feeling and things like that, well, isn't that a source of morality as well? That it actually requires you to be a moral person in order to have this biofield working? Because if you're feeling guilty or you're up to something sinister or you've been a bad person in general, that biofield's not going to be good. It's not going to be.
It's wild what can happen when you actually start paying attention and cultivate deep awareness, right? Because what you're saying, it happens naturally. And like, you don't even, it's like the more you start doing this stuff and cultivating awareness, also your patterns and your paradigms present. And you also are more aware of the mirror, what that means, how you're seeing yourself reflected through other people and situations or places that you exist in. And I think because the energy starts moving in a flow that is more appropriate for its channel, then you're optimizing your personal energy, right? So your battery is charged, you feel better about yourself in general. So you're able to look at these patterns that otherwise might be more challenging to look at through a clearer lens rather than
Yeah,
like being judgmental and being down and being like, I'm too scared to look at that. Like when you really start practicing energy work, which is literally just magic. It's not hippie shit. It's not beach time yoga, whatever you want to call it. It's literally magic. Magic is energy work, period, point blank. It's energy work. So when we're talking about this, I don't want people to perceive it like, oh, the woo and blah, blah, blah. It's like your entire universe is structured upon this. So you should participate in it, and that's part of why we're having these chats too, specifically talking about ushering in renaissance. It's like when we take responsibility for ourselves and we start caring for ourselves, then these things just naturally follow. It doesn't feel like we're forcing it, and we don't feel like we don't know what the f we're doing. You really do start to feel supported by yourself just because you're learning how to take care of yourself. So anyway,
yeah.
tangent.
And then you stop worrying about what other people think about you.
For
You're
sure.
concerned about you're concerned about it still, that like you don't want to get in anybody's way or hurt anybody's feelings or hurt anybody in any way. But you also don't care about what they think about you. It's like if you guys think this is woo and this all sounds silly, well, it does sound woo and it does sound silly, but it just so happens that it's true. A bit like quantum mechanics, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think for look, you have to be taken down a path and you have to be open to these things. However, look, I don't know how long it would take anybody else to get involved with this stuff or get up to a level where you know that it's true. But you can take the testimony of all the people that have come before you that, oh, yes, some of them are crackers. Sorry, nuts, whatever you want to call it. Crazy. Some of these people are mental, but some of them aren't. And not all these people are lying to you. And if there's a whole tradition behind this stuff, it's the same tradition as yoga. It's just the Chinese version of it. It came with Buddhism, got linked to Taoism, and then became Chinese. But it's all these ancient Aryan arts. I think they really come from like ancient Sumeria and ancient Iran, and probably from the Stone Age. It's probably just this really ancient tradition. but it is there and it is real. And oh look, all it is your bioelectricity. It's not like there's some extra thing there that we don't believe in through science. It's there. It's just, you know, you wouldn't believe in Arnold Schwarzenegger if you'd only been around some skinny people all the time. Then you turn around and go, "Wow, it's actually achievable that you can get that big and look that like that." Well, it's the same for these energy arts. You just practice it for long enough, and sure enough, you become internally Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. It's like it also helps for those of us who do follow the muse and are more aligned with like Hellenic traditions and things like that. When you clear when you cultivate that deep awareness and you're able to clear these channels that otherwise stagnate, then you do open up very specific channels to really to receive messages from, you know, divinity, and you can see that in whatever way you want to. But I've definitely noticed that through practice that I'm able to follow these nudges that I've received since I was a small child and didn't know what they meant and thought my mind was just me talking to myself. But I've learned to differentiate between my voice and other direction. And I can also act on it. That's really important. The trust of
Mm,
knowing when it's guidance and acting on it and following through. And I try to hit 100% as much as I can. Sometimes I'm
nice.
98, but like that's a
Yeah.
practice that I've been cultivating for a long
I,
time.
I, I have a little story of the first time I heard that voice, and that for me that voice it for me is just tends to be feminine, and that's the voice I get the most. It's a feminine voice. But I was 25, 26, living in London. I was a fashion photographer, and I because of London, it's just easier to get around on your bike if you got somewhere to go and hop on the tube. It's just the easiest way to do things. So this one day I was stopping off for a meal and I was eating, and it was a good bike, just a pedal bike. Voice came in my ear. Your bike's been stolen, Ryan. You better go and do something about it. You've just about got enough time. I'm like, shut up, stupid voice in my head. I'm eating my Quiznos.
Oh no.
And that was the
Yeah.
last time I didn't listen to it because I walked outside soon after. And I was like, oh, shit. And my bike had been stolen. So that was the last time I didn't listen to that voice. But it's tough to distinguish between that and your own psychosis.
Seriously, that's like a master skill to cultivate is learning the difference and then learning to follow through and focus. Because I find that every single time I don't listen, I get some kind of pushback for it.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, now you're suffering in some way, or this is gonna like, you know, snowball into some other thing. Another thing that's really cool about energy work that I want to talk about because it popped up earlier, and this is just a comment very briefly, but like in my work, when I'm talking to other practitioners, one thing that we all notice is that our bullshit meter is like totally different from where it used to be. Like things don't really affect us. And you probably, because you've done so much energy work by now too, you might notice also that like your trigger time, you know, your response to things that happen might be different than it would have been before you started practicing energy work. If someone says something stupid to me that could be offensive, I'm not really offended in the way that I might have been before I started practicing stuff like this. So now I'm just like, that's interesting. What does that mean? Instead of like, how dare you? I am perfect in every way, you know?
Why did you go English then? For me, that I developed that skill through doing martial arts. Um, that it's kind of an ego dampener, isn't it? And it's that silence. In the Japanese arts, they call it mu, which is a thing of no mind, and you just receive that information and deal with the information internally with no emotional baggage with it, or any other emotional attachments that come naturally with these things. You can even take in those emotions and see them on an intellectual level, on like a wisdom level. Yeah, I got that from the martial arts. But I think
Nice.
you have to have that as a man anyway, because we're born with such big egos, especially as you get towards your teen years and your 20s. You have to learn to dampen that shit down, else that's your biggest weakness as a man. that
Mm,
ego. It's also your biggest strength, but it can be a not your biggest, but it's also a great strength, but it's a big weakness, isn't it? Because then the
right.
emotions get involved, and men aren't as good at with emotions as women. We're just not. We're just not.
Yeah,
As
that's
a
one of
broad stroke.
those divine androgyne situations, isn't it? Like we all have these different things that, like, for women it's a totally different thing probably than it is for men, obviously. So, yeah, it's one of those balancings. You have to temper that hyper masculine egoic drive to have the answer and to, do this and that.
Yeah,
And you have
but
to
also the
balance.
temperance from that feminine side, just to accept things and to deal with them things in their own terms and not be so individualistic.
Right.
Not just to serve yourself. Everyone can be served by your actions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, if there was like one thing that we could show people that they could take away today, that's like a super easy technique, does something come to mind for you that you could illustrate without having to like get up and be grandiose? Like, is anything come to mind that would be super simple? I have one that's really easy.
In regards to energy,
Yes, like a practice that somebody who's just learning about this could do for themselves that's
well, look at
not
the
gonna.
base of all this. Yeah, I've got the simplest thing, and I'll give you two things, and these are actually at the highest level. Look, I teach martial art, and the very first thing as a teacher is part of the curriculum, not necessarily if you turn up that day, but as part of the curriculum, the first thing on there is breath, because that underlies everything else. It's how to breathe, when to breathe, make sure you breathe.
Yeah,
And look, before you start a new sentence, before or after you've had an emotional or traumatic event, there's always a breath there. There's always a deep or a let's go, and there's a difference between the length of the in breath and the length of the out breath. It tends to be, a long out breath if you're trying to get rid of something, and a long in breath if you're trying to begin something. There's a psychology there as well as a bodily psychology as well. So what I would recommend to people is take notice of when you're breathing, just that simple thing that, something bad just happened, or, oh, next door are being loud again. I was going to knock on and say something to them. And you go, just see that you're doing that, start there. But then after that, I would say, look, sit calmly, sit stillly, put your hands on your knees. And when you breathe in, just like a little extra space in the top of your ribs where your shoulders are, just like a little more space there. So it's more difficult for you to expand and contract your lungs. You're literally stopping this part of your body. And then send your breath down to that sacral plexus that we were just talking about, which is take 3 fingers, and then how big your fingers are. Put them on your belly button, and about there, halfway inside your body, is this area, the sacral plexus. All you need to do is breathe to that spot. I know your lungs stop at your diaphragm, but you can breathe to a point where you can feel the compression of your organs down to that point. Now put your focus there as well, your attention, not will, not uh not your imagination, not intent, not I am not channeling the energy down to that, because wherever the attention goes, the energy flows. And if you're imagining something in your head, well, then the attention's up there, isn't it? So just clear your mind. Let's get in that moo state, this no state, as much as you can, and just let everything sink and relax and breathe into that area. And do it for a little while. You'll notice it. That is actually the main technique that I use for charging myself up. Of with a few extra things here and there, but that's the main way I do it. Sink the chi, they call it in Taoism, and you're just letting all the muscles relax, relax, relax. There are certain gates, certain areas that you're more likely to be a bit more tense, but you just let everything drop to that level. And 5 minutes even, you'll definitely feel a big difference. Do it enough, you'll start feeling dogs sideways emotions, sideways dogs.
Yeah, you will. Start practicing. You'll start picking up on the energies of your pet. Actually, I've used my tuning forks on animals and trees, just to make this a little more woo. It's like that stuff is legitimate. It's crazy. Like you can communicate with the frequency of a tuning fork. You can relax your pets. You can communicate with them. I use tuning forks on my daughter who's like 4 and she's so calm. Less is more with kids for sure, but it's like
Mm.
an immediate result. You can communicate with trees. Like I've sat with trees and used forks and received all kinds of wild information. I have cleared homes, people's homes with tuning forks. Like you literally walk through with a fork and pick up. I have a funny story. Do you want me to tell you this really quick
I'd love a funny story. Yeah.
about a house clearing? Okay. So I had a client, a longtime client. I saw her for about a year. And she was building this house. She was like rehabbing a house. And she had asked me to come over because she wasn't too sure about the energy of the space. And she wanted to start renting it out to people with like a really clear vibe. And I was like, well, I can tune your house the same way I tune you. And she was like, amazing, come over. So I came over and it's still like semi under construction. They're making good progress, and I'm walking through. No one's there but me and her, and I'm walking through and I'm clearing the different areas and giving her inputs about what I'm noticing. And then I go up into one of the rooms and I'm like, wow, this room is kind of intense. Like there's a lot of, I don't know, it feels like frustrated and angry, and then I saw uh, something in the room that I recognized, and I knew who it belonged to, and immediately I was like, shouldn't have said that out loud because I knew the worker that had been working in that room, and I knew the experiences that they had been having. As soon as I saw that item, I was like, oh, that's so and so's item. So this must be the room that they've been working on. So then I just like, yeah, no big deal. Just clear this space real quick. But it was like the heaviest room. And then yeah, I finished the job, and that was it. That was wrapped for the day. But then I talked to that person and I was like, hey, what's going on over there? The worker. I'm like, what you been doing there? And I did this clearing today. This is what I experienced. And they're like, that's the room that I go to when she drives me crazy. And I have to just like sit for a minute and get away and like get rid of all my frustrations. That's the space that I go to do that. And
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, that was just wild. But the rest of the house felt pretty chill, you know? So you can do stuff like that. It's not that hard, really. It's just cultivating deep awareness,
Mm.
cultivating enough
And it
awareness.
is. It doesn't sound like those two things would go together. I think what it might be is that with training, the mind enters the body. It's not just up here all the time or even out there all the time, which it is for most people. You know, you're concentrating on the things. But when it moves into the body and the body accepts it more and the nervous system becomes attuned to you doing that, this is how it's done. I think that's my current thesis anyway.
Yeah, so I want to piggyback off of your exercise that you're sharing with everybody, which is breathing down into the sacral space to charge yourself up. That's also a very powerful for sexual health and vitality. You
You're going to
can
go
do.
to where I was going to go to. I was using it as a lily
We're
pad
not going to.
to jump into the pool of bodily pleasures.
We're
But
not
yeah,
going to
go
talk
for it.
about farming or anything, but that you can do like for women, I mean men too, but for what I do an exercise similar to that. I breathe down into the sacral and I do a figure eight, radiating figure eight in that space, and I tune into the energy of the cycling of because like your body is supported by the shape of the figure eight. It's called the Celtic weave in some traditions. So when
Mm-hmm.
I do this, I add a little something extra on it, and I'm using that breath to build up the power of this figure eight that I'm creating in the space. Once I tune into it and I'm really feeling that energy flow really well, then I expand it upwards up into my heart space. So I connect my heart with my sacral, and then I'll work on getting that figure eight to become very strong there as well. And that's been a really fun technique, and it's crazy powerful. Like people will, I feel bad telling you guys this because I don't want you to misuse it, but it builds your magnet like crazy, and people notice your whole vibe changes. Like you become so radiant and magnetic, and you don't even mean to, but you can't help it. So this is something that you can practice for that. I also want to remind everybody not to ignore the back side of the body because we get so caught up into the front side and the chakras and where they are. But you have the backside too. You've got chakras and energy centers on the backside that have similar themes as the front side, but slightly different because they have more to do with how we receive those energies from ourselves and others rather than the type of energy that we're putting out into the world. It's just a different type of stuff. But what you can do is really useful is you can rub that part of your back, the lower back that would be behind the front of the sacral. And I really don't want to get up and demonstrate something, but I will anyways. So I like to take my hands and put the top of my hands on my back, and I can cross my hands together. And I'll come into kind of like a standing bent knee pose, but I'll rub one way. Here, let me turn this way. I'll rub one way. You can't see me at all.
Can't see it all. There we go.
I'll rub one way, and then you kind of bring it up just a little bit to, behind the sacral, and then change it, and then rub it down the other way. You will notice so much stuff happening here, and you don't have to do it long.
Yeah.
Bonus points
Yeah.
if you want to like drag it to the front of the body and flip your hands. That's a good thing to do. But yeah, don't forget the backside of your body needs love too. You got to support that area.
I totally did everything that you just did. Then I use right at the beginning of every session. I literally warm up my kidneys, pull it round. It gets a little bit more energetic as well as I come further away from my body as well. But I start by slapping my kidneys a bit, and I do what you do as taps. I do as slaps.
Oh yeah, slaps work. Slaps are great. What else do you do?
We said we wouldn't talk about sexual things.
Do you cup your hands and do the thing, or?
I do a little. So that movement, so here's something, everybody. This is great. So in my martial art, what I've actually done is taken all this occult stuff and systematized it into the martial art. And there are certain archetypes that appear again and again and again. One of them is making not a fist but a chop. So we're making that same cupping thing. Now you can actually slap somebody on the skin and totally mess up. I mean, literally, they'll be spurting blood out of there, like almost immediately. If you can even that kind of a slap on them with a cup hand like that. What it is that if you look at it's so difficult on these cameras. But the back side of my hand, where my thumb, can you see where my thumb is there?
Yeah.
It's in like a slightly odd place. So it's like my thumb would be straight forward, and then I'm cupping the rest of my hand to it. Right. But before we do that, if you hold it, I don't know if you know this, Shani, this is great, but if you like bend your hand till it goes backwards, and now just relax it, and you'll feel like tension on your fingers. And there's a place where you get to about there for me, and I can feel like not the tension, but there's a perfect connection in all those tendons on my hand. That is where they do Tai Chi and all the energy stuff. That's the hand position there. So I know that from my other martial arts. So if I just lock my hand into place there, that's so many things. As like a kung fu chop, but also like you did for the slapping. When I rub my kidneys, that's where my hands are. My hands never leave that position once I started doing it. They're quite relaxed. It's not like I'm trying to hurt somebody, but it's that, and it's because you can feel it. All the tendons in your arm align with your fingers, and you can actually, if you just sit there quietly, you can feel like a vibrating on your fingers as well, almost like they've been struck like a piano.
Wow. Yeah, and that's just a really good point. I think that like some of the top things that we can do for ourselves that don't really take too much effort or even knowledge is movement, right? Some type of bouncing or tapping does more than never doing that. If you never touch yourself, you never tap or jostle and help things move, then you're just stagnant all the time. And if you're wondering why you're tired, fatigued, stressed out, frustrated, and feeling like you can never get anywhere in your life, it might be because you're stagnating in your body. So try bouncing, like the tree, shaking like the tree and just swaying. You don't really have to do it, pretend you're a tree, put a nice little bend in your knees, bounce up and down, and you can swing and slap yourself and all kinds of fun
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
You'll notice immediately stuff starts
yeah.
moving.
It does wake you up. I mean, what do you do? If you're in the morning, you're like, oh no, I'm late for work, and you like that over the cold water, you slap your face, and it wakes you up. It does that. The body needs waking up sometimes, and the body has lots of little localized areas. So you give them a quick slap, it can go further. You say you can test the amount of chi if you slap the area between your forearm and your upper arm, in that elbow crease there. You can apparently, if you do it enough, you can tell how much chi's in there by how your skin raises up. But I don't want
Oh,
to do that.
like
Do you
here
know what
on
I
the
mean?
forearm? Because I saw a guy doing that.
Literally, in the there, but like further towards this area here.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay.
literally crease of your elbow.
It's like cupping. I saw this guy doing something where he was like tapping here really hard
Yeah,
over and over for like 20 minutes, and the guy's arm
yeah,
turned like purple. Like, cupping,
yeah.
it'll tell you where you need. The purpose of cupping is basically a diagnostic tool to tell you where you need support in your health based on where you bruise the most and how you respond to the cupping. It's relaxing and everything, but it's a diagnostic tool more than anything. So that's cool. You can literally do the same thing with the right type of
I,
pressure and
I, I haven't actually had cupping. I've not. I mean, I know of cupping and I've seen it done, but I've never really looked into that. Should
if you come
look
to
it up.
Costa Rica, I'll give you a cupping session.
What was it? I said you were. I totally got the country wrong, didn't I? What did I
Yeah,
say?
Puerto Rico or something.
Puerto Rico. I said I'll go to Puerto Rico. You can come and pick me up.
Yeah. Well, if you come out here, I can do fire cupping too, which is really cool. You use alcohol and you just like dip the fire into the cup and put it right on the skin and it creates a vacuum. So they're glass.
All right, cool. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's awesome.
nice.
It's the best.
Well, I mean, we were talking about Jedi Academy before, and we also talked about whatever that male voice was telling me to build the Temple of Solomon. Uh, I consider those two things. Look, for me, the Temple of Solomon was an archetype. It was like, yeah, okay, all this mathematical stuff that I've found. Yes, it's the energy stuff, but it's also teaching people. It's a place where this information can get out from. So I'm hoping, maybe within the next 10 to 12 months that we could actually turn this into an actual academy with an actual syllabus, and all these clever people have just written a page or two or just done one section of that syllabus, and then
Mhm.
we could flog it and get it to pay some bills and start building things up, but b we can, and which is the relay, the main point of it is to get this information out there because it is absolutely life changing, all of it. All of it, even the people that are just more scientific and study numbers and things like that, you can see the minds are being opened and they're constantly having to think, and it's training their intellects, and they have to
Yeah.
open their hearts up to these unusual. What do you mean that the size of the moon is in golden ratio to the size of the earth? That's impossible. No, it's true. You know, what do you
Wow.
mean that there are so many of these things, but and in all these different areas, and you can pick your area, and there's something magical there in each of these areas. I mean, literal magic, but also the effect that it has on you afterwards, being a kind of psychological magic and an enlightening, as in an enlightening of your soul. Some of the burden of being alive, which is very difficult. Everybody, it's not easy. This
Yeah.
and it gets lightened from you somewhat. I famously turned into a complete fool, which tarot readers will know.
Yes.
That's the greater path of enlightenment, because you're not taking it seriously either. Because I just figure we're all going to die, and why get caught up in this? Even this great work, even if we are discovering the mind of God, it's still funny. It's still like it's still ridiculous. There's still no reason to take it overly seriously, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we do keep it pretty light in there, even when it's serious. There's always an air of that fool energy. That's part of the magic of that space.
I think it's mostly me and you keeping the silliness going, but
Oh God, is it us?
yeah, yeah. Everybody else joins in, but we're definitely the silly ones.
Well, Dane's pretty funny.
Like I said, I love it when you're on. If it's been a week or so, like, oh, Shan's on, there'll be some memes up there, some dirty memes. I don't mean dirty, dirty. I mean
Dropping those
dirty.
memes,
Yeah.
getting the giggles. Yeah, so I didn't realize we were going to talk so much about Jedi Academy, but I'm really glad that we are because I've wondered, I haven't foolishly just haven't asked you because I was like, it shall be revealed, and it is being revealed, just like what we're working towards, who we want to be in there, and it's really more like a public space. If you want to learn, if you want to get in the dojo, if you want to expand yourself, if you want to challenge yourself, then that might be a good space to do it. So, um, how are you
I
doing
think
on?
what's also fun as well that it's like you're dealing with real world stuff. It's not like you've got, look, everybody on there is somewhat of an expert on the channels. However, this is always an ongoing thing. So we're all looking at this stuff still, and we're all finding new answers still. So there are projects on there like Project Flying Donkey that I just mentioned that you can join in with, and oh, I know something about that. Come and show us what you found, and we'll listen.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like everybody was was decoding their things, and it kept growing and growing. I actually had my first I earned my Jedi badge because I had my first like key moment with Dane. I don't know where you were, but we are chatting about something, and I started talking about how Venus was related to it. And then we started looking at the astrology and astronomy, and we're just like, whoa. And I was like, I did it finally. I didn't have to use math. I was able to unlock some element of a project. It's amazing. So it feels good to participate in
Yeah,
that stuff.
it does.
And
Yeah.
wouldn't you say it's like also very much about beauty, everything that we're doing? I
Mm,
feel like it is.
yeah, it is. It's at the center of it all, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I keep thinking a lot of the arts that I find myself dealing with in magic are very Venus oriented. It's all very like beauty and desire and the kind of the universe fulfilling itself through reproduction, which is what growth is. Either growing yourself or reproducing another one of us, or reproducing another building in architecture, or reproducing some beautiful music. It's all beauty is at the center of it, and it's not just normal beauty either. It's the beauty of the universe is literally we're decoding the language of the universe and using it to build things.
Yeah.
So this is
I-
what I want Jedi Academy to become. I want it to be Hogwarts, basically. I'm not bothered about Harry Potter, but it's a great analogy. I want
yeah.
Hogwarts. And you could be headmistress if you like.
Yes. Who, me or whoever's listening? You guys can come in there with
I
your,
did literally mean you, but I mean everybody. Everyone come and join,
yeah.
especially if you want to talk to some people that have been doing this stuff for a while and know their shit.
Yeah, for sure. How are you doing on time? Because we're creeping up on 2 hours and I want to respect your schedule because it's late for you. It's early for me.
It is, but I started off this thing tired, but at some point talking about the dog going side onto me, I got excited. So you're all right.
Nice.
I've got another half an hour in me if you want. By the
Oh,
way,
great.
everybody out there, it's 1:30 in the morning here. What time's it over there?
Yeah, here it's 6:30 p.m. So, yeah. I skipped dinner to hang out with Ryan Seven tonight. I was like, Psh, dinner can wait, y'all. I'm going to be talking to Ryan
Right.
Seven.
Eating is cheating. Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Good.
why not?
We're both in a similar exhausted
Yeah,
headspace. Just
yeah.
saying the first thing that comes into our heads.
To be honest, yes, it's been like one of those low energy days for me where I'm just riding it. I'm like, whatever, but like it feels good. It feels fine. I feel good fasting. It feels nice.
Yeah.
Um, So let's see. I'm going to look at my list and see if I have any questions before we go off. What do you think is the cost, one cost or many costs, of cutting ourselves off from um, pagan knowledge systems? How
Hmm.
have you seen it
So, I
resulted?
mean, you got to dissect what you just said first. So you got the pagan knowledge systems. So essentially, you mean anything not Christian, like the other religious, because it's in Christianity too. This stuff. It's
Any,
just that Christians went, oh no, it's not an analogy. There's nothing to be found here. It's all real. All this really happened. Don't look any further than the pulpit for an answer. So yeah, so it's in all these things. But what is the cost of not being attached to these systems? First of all, I don't think most people were ever attached to these systems. I think it's always been for a kind of an elite that could get their head around it, or an elite that had access to the temple that was teaching it, or in fact was bred for the temple. Um, I think there would have been smaller communities that would have had access to these things. Um, Certainly, the further you go back into the past, the smaller the communities would have been. But I don't think there was ever a time where it was for everybody. However, it did run everything for everybody. So because it was a top-down approach, as soon as you get hierarchies, you get this top-down approach. So the guys at the top are using it. So it would naturally filter down and everyone would be a part of it. What's the cost of not having it? Well, paganism as a broad thing also had a lot of horrible things to it because people would believe some crazy stuff and they weren't attached to something like the scientific method in order to derive truth from falsehood. Do you know what I mean? If you're like under a grate slitting a bull's throat to have its last, frightened dying breaths as it all that blood drops onto you to make a prophecy, that's not good. A lot of the dying icing stuff, eating babies, let's not do that. You know. Um,
they just had
However,
a different way of seeing it, though, too, I think, because they were so connected to nature.
yes, but nature, as I forgot who said it, is bloody in tooth and claw. There's no prisoners in nature. It's not as nice as you think it is. It's that symbol of the serpent eating its own tail.
The
Nature
Ouroboros.
devours itself in order to procreate. So things that was very insightful. Actually, it is nature. These pagan problems are the problem, also the problems of nature.
Yeah,
Um, there's something about humans that on an analogical level, we are halfway between the animals and the angels. There's something. Look, there's something divine about the animals too. I love animals, but there's something more in humans. We have more of a choice. A dog can't choose to remove itself from nature. It can't. We can
right.
though. So I think actually the crux of it is that nature. You've actually hit the nail on the head. What happens when we get rid of these pagan systems? Well, Christianity and Islam and even Buddhism and things like that, they're very unnatural. You do unnatural things. You could say the city came from adherence to these more hierarchical top-down religions. So look, there's benefits, and I have lots of criticisms about it too. I'm quite even-handed with all this stuff. A lot of paganism's actually quite scary and horrible, and you're
Oh,
glad that
yeah.
it's gone. But there's actually lots of bits of modernity and the results of the scientific method that are equally as scary and horrible, and it gets clinical and you get dehumanized by it, whereas actually nature's very humanizing for all its blood and claws.
Right.
In fact, it's the blood and claws that makes you human because you're vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, that's a really big part of it, isn't it? With all of it, the vulnerability, the suffering, the pain, it's all part of the stuff that makes us human and gives us this experience, like there are, I'm sure, other entities or what have you that do not have the opportunity to taste and feel pain and suffering. And in a creative imagination, I could think that they might yearn for that experience, like if we're,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like a lot of paganism could be very brutal, but there's an element of how it is so closely tied into cosmos that for some reason, when monism came around, monotheism, for some reason, all of a sudden, that organization didn't matter.
Mm.
It was like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, forget it. No, that's not, you don't have to worry about that.
So,
So,
from a mythological perspective, actually, this is written into the earlier religions, and it's still there in Christianity. In Christianity, it's still there in John the Baptist. But I need to revert back to how it was in Sumeria and Mesopotamia. You have Gilgamesh, who's like the first civilized man. He's a king. He's a civilized man. He lives in a city. But his best friend, whose name I've totally forgotten now, it's Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh best friend. It's very late, everybody. I just forget. Enkidu. So you get
yeah,
Gilgamesh and Enkidu. And Enkidu's this hairy wild man. He lives out there. He's kind of like Conan the Barbarian. He's got this what he's about is like honor and being good to your family and your pride and your dignity and all these things that you'll learn out there in nature. You know, my friend is the dog. I feed the dog helps me to hunt. I feed the dog. It's this excellent communication that we can have as the animal self, and that's what Enkidu is. And Gilgamesh is the guy that lives in the city. He can brew the beer and make the medicines and do all these other things. And this great combination because Gilgamesh on his own is a tyrant. He's a bad king. He starts off being an arsehole, basically. He's not well liked at the beginning of the story, but then he meets his opposite in this kind of feminine character of Enkidu, who's a wild man, who is paganism, as it were. And they come together and they're best friends and they go on all these brilliant adventures. And because they are so well paired together, you get all the aspects, you get all the perspectives there. So you can examine these stories that they're a part of. But he needs Enkidu. He needs him. Much like, it's that sacred androgyne thing. Well, look, in modern days, as you get a bit older, I know you've lived in Detroit. I've lived in New York. I've lived in London. I've lived in big cities. They're a trap. When you're in your 20s, they're great. They're great fun. But you get a bit older and you go, this is a trap. These people aren't living the happiest life. This is just concrete and smell and constant slight danger and high prices and worrying about rent and all these other things. It's a trap.
yeah,
And that the problem of the city having influence on politics and decision making for everybody, these people have got blinkers on. They don't even know who they are anymore. They're just serving this big machine. Essentially, that's the trap of the city. It feeds itself on you, and you get nothing at the end of it. So by leaving, you go back to nature, or more closer to nature, certainly, and you become more yourself, and you learn more about your true rhythms and what silence is like. There's a discovery for you.
yeah,
What actual calm and silence is like.
yeah. And that's something to mention about comfort as well, and how much of a killer it is. Comfort is like such a destroyer. In the
Yeah,
city, everyone is so focused on survival most of the time that they're also hyper focused on comfort, not disrupting things, not doing anything to disturb the stability,
yeah.
to maintain that stasis in such a
Mm.
difficult situation, such as a city where you're having to really push through in the 9 to 5 zone.
And the only thing that they can fulfill themselves with at that point is luxury. But luxury is not good for you either because you get accustomed to it and you think that it's a high price and it's really not. You know, the real prize is meeting people that you like and talking to them for a couple of hours, and you know,
Yeah.
it's the other things in life. I mean, you do appreciate everyone. Most people come to appreciate these things as they get older. This is why the city is full of younger people.
Right. That's true because they have the energy to feed the system.
Yeah, yeah. And
You
by the
know?
time they start getting depleted of energy, they realize the system. If they don't, the system eats them up and spits them out somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I know. It's sad to see. Unfortunately, it's just a part of modernity at this point, and people still haven't caught on to it for some reason. I don't know
Oh,
why.
I think it's been going on for thousands. I think it's literally been going on since the first cities in Sumeria. It's
Okay.
been going on that long. We've been away. It's there in that story of Enkidu and Gilgamesh.
Hmm.
I think the thing is that you can't look. I'm sure you were like this. I know I was. You can't teach kids anything. You can be there alongside them, and you can be an oracle for them. If they have a question, you can answer it for them. But they need to be drawn to want that information. Otherwise, you're just there to look after them and you know, catch them when they make too big the mistakes too big that they can't solve it on their own. But it's the school of hard knocks for humans. That's just the way we are. And wouldn't you rather have it that way, though?
Oh yeah.
You know, there are simple lessons to learn. They're not ultimately um you know, ultimately you can always, most of them, you can overcome these things, even the horrible life ending things like horrible diseases and stuff like that. The human spirit can still overcome those things, even though the human body might not be able to.
Right.
So I think this school of hard knocks thing is, I think this is a school for souls. It certainly appears that way. You know,
Yeah.
through these challenges that you get stronger and better and more resilient, more energized, and more focused, and more loving, and more open, and more kind, and more sexy, and better at dancing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That way when the safety dance comes on, you know exactly what you're doing.
I can dance if I want to. You can leave your friends behind because your friends don't dance. If they don't
I
dance, they're no friends
know.
of mine.
That's right. That's right. Well, I just keep going back to suffering and I hate it because it's like so depressing, but I'm like, if we don't suffer, we can't grow, you know? So you got to
All
do the
art is
hard stuff.
suffering. I had
Yeah.
a good long conversation with a female friend of mine the other day, and it was David Bowie that had brought it up in a conversation years ago, and he said that, you know, all art is suffering. It's almost like you don't want to do it ever. You've got an urge inside you to do it, but how often when you're doing a project do you actually want to go and do that? It's always a chore. You're always suffering for your art. You never quite like the thing you're doing. It's always better in your imagination. You know you can always do better. You can always do better, but it's how much time and energy can you put into this thing for it to be, there's craft in art as well. But yeah,
And you
it's
never
very rarely
know.
not a challenge to be an artist. Excuse me.
Yeah. No, you never know too. You're like, could this be better? Is this good? Like you're
Yeah.
constantly emotionally suffering too and questioning yourself and your craft. You never know, like, so that's why it's good when you're creating and doing art to really do it for yourself because then you're not getting into this like cycle of worrying about what other people are going to think because ultimately that shouldn't matter. If you're following the muse and you're following your true inspiration connected in with divinity or whatever you want to call it, then you're being guided to do that for a purpose. But you know, when you start thinking like, I'm going to do this to make money, I'm going to do this because so and so is going to like it, I'm going to do this because I'm going to receive love from it, then you just tarnish it and you just suffer even more, like second guessing everything, you know?
Yes, I do know.
I know you do.
I do know. Yeah, it's every day. It's like, I'm an artist for my career. I'm an artist for everything that I do. It's like they're all arts to me. I think the only time I actually get to enjoy the art really is when I'm doing some flow arts. So, okay, I do martial arts, but I also do. I suppose you consider them circusy because they've not got a martial possibility at the end of it. But do you know what rope dart is? Do you remember Mortal Kombat? Everybody, Scorpion, the yellow guy, he's got like a big chain with a knife on the end of it. Well, it's a martial arts weapon, that. But you can also have a nice version that it's safe and you won't hurt anyone with, and you can just stand there and flow with it and wrapping it around your body in all kinds of cool Jackie Chan ways. So I love that. That's one of my art forms that I can just get into an immediate flow state, and I can have fun with something and be creating art at the same time. I'm not second guessing myself. I'm just enjoying it.
Check this
And
out.
also, you can set it on fire, and that's lots of fun as well.
Yeah, so okay, so do you know Pamela? She does the dancing for Teddy Bass's music videos. She does fire dancing and also poi. And
Oh,
she did
cool.
a little like intro to poi class. So I made these little like poi tassels so I can learn how to do some of that stuff, you know? It's like
Yeah, it's cool.
warrior dancing. That's what you're talking about, right? Something
Yeah,
similar.
I mean, I used to do it for a while. I had a strange side career. Uh, Me and my friend would put on a martial arts show with these fire swords, basically like lightsabers but fire. And I'd breathe fire. We'd do stunts, and then at the end, just to while the audience was there, I'd do some of that rope dart stuff where I'm spinning it around myself. But yeah, I naturally met a lot of fire performer people that do all that kind of stuff. I love that art form. It's loads of fun. I wouldn't like to be just associated with it because I have as a martial artist, the dancey kind of fire stuff and the circusy stuff. It's a bit too feminine for me, and you know, you feel a bit gay or something. You know what I mean by that? I don't mean anything horrible, but you're like, I don't know. And you're on show as well in front of people, usually half naked. So yeah, but
It's
I
just
do
not
I
for
do
you.
like. Yeah, it's just not for me. I think it's a bit of that pride thing from the martial arts stuff. That's what it is. And
That's what it
I'm a
seems like.
man. There's look, I still have an ego. I've not dissolved it all. I still want to look masculine in front of ladies and stuff.
Yeah, you can't feel sexy doing fire dancing if you think that it's feminine. You're not going to feel like a masculine sex god doing fire dancing if you don't believe in it.
Yeah, mine tended to be quite martial looking anyway. So it's like possible four triple. It was cool. Well,
Hilarious.
I loved it. And fire breathing's like an orgasm of fire out your face. It's fucking awesome. What a
That's true.
great feeling that is. Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
ever done it?
Um, no, but I've seen a lot of people do it. Whenever I see them do it, I'm like, oh, one of these days. Actually, I have done it. I have done it. I have done
Go
it, but
on.
I don't remember when, but I remember doing it and I was probably drunk and I don't remember the details. But I
Oh
remember
no,
the
I have a
act.
story.
Tell me.
So the very first time I did it, one of the girls that I'd met by doing the stunt work at the festivals, um, she'd asked me to go to a gig with her, like, come and perform with me. And she was a beautiful girl, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll come. And she goes, I'll teach you how to breathe fire. That was the main reason. That and the fact that she was a beautiful girl. And so we got there, and she got me drunk. Like, she probably got me drunk. And I was in no state to be doing anything. And she goes, oh, we're going to on fire breathe now. And I'm like, all right, okay. And like moments before, I'd been sat on the floor going, oh my God, I need to stop drinking. She's like, come and do it. And I'm like, okay, beautiful girl, I'll come and do that thing. And so I did it. And it was more like a fire spit. It wasn't much. It came out about that far. It was thin. It was like a fire spit. But it was my first time. I was like, hooray. And so a year later, I've gotten that good at the art that I'm teaching other people. And this girl says to me, oh, I remember this time, the first time I ever saw fire breathing, I was at such and such a place about a year ago. I was like, hang on a minute. I was at such and such a place about a year ago. She goes, I got this photo. And it's a photo of me with this little bit of fire coming out of my face. I'm like, what? That is mad. How, out of all the people, that 1 year later, she'd have that photo of me while I'm teaching her how to fire breathe, while I was being taught how to fire breathe. Mm,
That's
good times.
hilarious.
Yeah, I met some wild people during those days. Yeah. Don't do that for too long, guys. It's not good for you. All that festival life. Honest.
Mm.
It was like there was a Burning Man every week for about 2 years for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang. I don't know. Yeah, that must have been a while ago, huh?
Yeah, about 9 years ago now.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. You're going to have to tell me more about that another time.
Yeah.
I need to know everything about it now. Okay, well, we are coming up on the top of the hour, so I'm not going to have you tell me your whole life story and festivals, but um, do you want to give the people some final words?
See, Melissa, also in the Jedi Academy and also on YouTube, asked me this question about a week ago on an interview I did for her. And I just started talking about taking penguins to South Africa or some of the garbled nonsense, that it was a bad idea. And then she said, no, I think there's such thing as a South African penguin. And then I looked it up, and apparently it's a haven for penguins, South Africa. And my advice was, don't take your penguins to South Africa. What is my thing? I think if you want to get into the energy stuff, anybody out there, come and join Jedi Academy first of all, please. We'll share everything we can with you. But it is that thing. Me and Shannon have said it several times, and that is where the attention goes, the energy flows. And that's true internally and externally. The more time and effort and energy you put into something, your energy goes there naturally. But internally, it can get profound. And it doesn't take long or much concentration to start feeling those effects, those tightenings and the extra blood to that area, and the increased sense of kind of gravity and magnetism around those areas. It's very interesting. I believe it could be, if you're looking to make a first step into something that you think is a bit woo or thinks a bit unseen or difficult to comprehend, just try that. Maybe for it might take as long as a week, but I'd probably say take around about an hour of you just keeping your mind focused in one place till you start to feel those effects. At other times, it's immediate. It's immediate for me now. I put my brain somewhere, especially in places where it's been practiced. Tightness, feel the energy going in. Magic. Dogs come sideways to you. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. Yeah. Um, cultivate your awareness. Do something really simple. Pick one thing that really calls out to you and just try it. Just think and breathe and see what you notice.
Or
Ryan,
you could go to a supermarket front door with a like that and hold your hand out and pretend that you're using the force when you open them. That's also cool.
you could do that. Yeah, you could also do that. Definitely to
It's
impress your
real.
friend. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Make
yeah,
sure you're around people that you really respect,
yeah.
maybe a boss or something like that, and then just
And
go
make sure you
like
make
that.
noises too. Like,
Yeah.
you got to do like the
Yeah.
whole thing, like Super Saiyan and all.
Like you go into the toilet, just the effort it takes. Yeah. Good
They'll love it.
advice.
Guarantee
Good
it. They
advice.
will love it. All right. Well, I guess we should pop off of here. This was very fun. I hope that you had a good time too.
Always have a good time with you, Shan.
I know it's so fun. I feel like we're going to do some cool stuff together. We already are, but I love chatting with you about this stuff. I love your pool of knowledge is like so different from mine, and I love watching them intersect and come up with new ideas and ways of seeing things. So, thank you for coming on the channel.
I am looking forward to the future.
Yes,
And
me too.
I think if I had any say in it, it would be, let's actually make the Jedi Academy, Hogwarts, Solomon's Temple, whatever it's going to be, like a place of learning for people.
Yeah. So again, guys, go ahead and click that Discord link if you're curious and you want to join Jedi Academy. There's a link in there that's good for 7 days. I'll also, again, post the link to the previous chat that we had on Ryan's channel which was pretty fun. So you can check that out if you want to. And when you pop into Jedi, say hi, and initiations, say hello. And
Tell
if you
us where
need
you
help,
came from. That would be great.
oh
I
yeah,
came from you and Shan talking nonsense to each other the other night. And we go, oh, yeah, we remember that.
yeah, yeah. Just blabbing around, talking about all kinds of woo stuff as usual. But we do want to help people ultimately. The reason that, we're joining forces to chat about these things in the first place is not to stroke our own D's or, boost our egos. It's because these things are helpful. They're helpful
Yeah.
for us to understand. So ask questions
Even though I
always.
heard Shan's got a massive D, everything else, yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge. I heard.
Yeah. That's word on the street.
Photos on the Discord.
Yeah.
Everybody, if you want to see Shan's huge D, come on the Discord. We got photos.
Yep.
That's incentive enough.
Go ahead and come onto the Modern Medwa channel and Jedi Academy. All the photos are there. You'll see it.
And you can see my profile pic with a big L on the forehead.
Right. All right,
Thanks for going
Ryan.
through all the alphabet. Okay, my lovely. It's 2 a.m. now, so I
Yeah.
better
Do your ting. Much love to you, and I'll talk to you soon.
be good, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Mwah.